Episode 3. We are here. I said the same thing on the last one I did with Harry, which we'll come on to later, but starting and ending a podcast, we're not quite there yet, are we? It's
no.
You want to just be like, hi, but we're talking to each other, not the camera.
I've really enjoyed the jazz hands, by the way.
Yeah, that was, we'll cut that out. Yeah, it is. I don't even know what day it is, but it's miserable, isn't it? It's raining. Chesterfield's flooding. Like, we can't deal with anything. Like, I think it should have been about 5 drops of rain and town's come to a standstill. Navigating to gym and back this morning were a challenge, wasn't it? It was for you as well. But yeah, apart from the uplifting weather, feeling pretty good about stuff. You?
Yeah, really good.
Good to be back?
Very.
In the hot seat?
Very. I missed it.
I know you enjoyed the second one a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Practice makes perfect.
It does. And like, we're not even going to mess about this time. We are going straight into Tori's top tips. So hopefully we're not spunking us load early like I try not to with Harry. And people aren't going to turn off after you've given some pearls of wisdom.
Well, if you call it that. So the top tip today is probably in line with some of the website tweaks that we're making soon. So that'll be really exciting. But my top tip for today is making sure that your website answers the 4 vital questions. So once upon a time, you used to get 7 seconds, apparently, of attention time before people would leave the website.
Oh, so that's the average span of someone's I log on to something. I'm gone if you've not got me.
It was 7 seconds. Right. You've lost it. It's now 3. So obviously we're living in a world where things are getting faster. You have 3 seconds. A whole 3 seconds. So the 4 questions that you need to make sure that your homepage answers before you even move your mouse. So you want your customers are lazy. You want to know exactly what they want there and then. And if you're not going to give it to them, they will leave. So it is, who are you? What do you do? Why should I, as the customer, care? And what do you want me to do next? So a clear call to action. The best thing to do is to look at your analytics and then the figure that you want to look at, which should hopefully, you've got Google Analytics set up on your website, that your session duration is the number that you need to look at. Right. So if your session duration is pretty low, then people are arriving and leaving pretty quick. Whereas if you're providing value and information, they should be staying for over a minute, couple of minutes, 3 minutes if you can, then in which case you've got a really, really, really good website. So yeah, session duration, those 4 seconds, those 4 questions are vital. When
we talk about Google Analytics, then is that something that anyone can just apply to their own website?
Yes, it's free.
Right.
Free to set up, free to pop on your website. Really, really, really simple. It's now GA4. So I don't even think you need a Google email address anymore in order to do it. I think you do it on any email address. But yeah, very, 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 very important to have on your website so you can see if your website's performing.
And the 4 vital questions again are?
Who are you? What do you do? Why should I care? And what do I do next?
So that's pretty hard to condense into 3 seconds, I think, on any website. Difficult.
And a lot of people don't do it because all they do is talk about themselves.
Yeah.
So you need to talk about...
I like talking about myself.
You do. That's why I do the website wording. You need to talk about your customer, think about their problems and how you solution them. Yeah. So those are the 4 questions that you need to answer.
Cool.
That's my top tip.
That's a good one.
Yeah, thank you.
Sounds like it comes with a lot. It sounds like it comes with a lot of work, but I think if you're doing the right things anyway, you'll naturally have that sort of. You'll probably have already answered those questions, but it's good to know. And like I think we talked about on the first podcast, shopping your own website is like so important.
Oh, vital. But then again, that's a lot of the reason, or a lot of the time that we spend, which will be another top tip another day. Scorecard, I know, yeah. Next one, call ones. The scorecard or the analytics that we make sure that we keep on top of, which obviously the website's one of them, is to make sure that you're constantly working towards your goal. So in fact, that's probably a good way to talk about what we were doing. We did a review last week.
Yeah, we did. Well, we did a full review then, but we do one weekly, don't we? Where we go through our scorecard. But yeah, the one that we did at the end of last month threw up a few red flags for us. Not red flags as such, but some areas that we needed to work on and improve ready for this month.
In order to achieve target, we knew that we had to make some tweaks, which obviously in business you have to be hot on your heels at all times and keeping an eye on that analytics. So we, a couple of weeks ago, saw that if we were going to hit target for this month, for data especially for us, for this month, which seemed a a little quieter at the beginning, we put a couple of bits in place. So do you want to talk about what we did in order to combat that?
Yeah, so obviously we attend a lot of events, and in most of those events we kind of sponsor in some form, whether that's supporting the athletes or the comp itself. So we reached out to the organisers of those comps and offered them a sort of, well, it was a giveaway for their members, pretty good as well. It was a Built for Athletes bag and one of our Eternity hoodies.
Yeah.
And basically they sent an email out to their database, which was people that attending the comps, CrossFest, Trafford Fit, Forge Fitness, and pick it up, put it down. And then only people on their mailing list would get the link to it. They'd sign up to the comp, and then one of them that we need to draw today or tomorrow actually will win the Built for Athletes bag and an Eternity hoodie. So that helped us gather some data and helped us hit our target. So we were, I think we gathered about maybe 250, 300 from that. And it's quite simple. It's good for the comps because they get to offer their mailing list and their people something which is really cool. It's over 200 quid's worth of stuff that the person will win. So it's good for the comps, it's good for us, and it's good for the people that enter.
Definitely.
So it's like it's a win all around, because I think sometimes, especially for me previously, you have that sort of negative stigma around like doing giveaways or competitions or trying to get email addresses and things like that. But actually, everyone benefits from that. The comp, like I just said, and then the people on the mailing list, and then ourselves for getting that data. And what shows that we kind of hit the spot with things like that, I think, is our unsubscribe rate's really low.
Yeah.
So when we get the data in from those types of giveaways, it's not like those people are just immediately unsubscribing.
Well, no, because we don't just sell to them, do we?
No, I chat shit via email to them, and apparently they kind of like it.
Apparently
so. So that's been.
And we've done a couple of other bits, haven't we? So we've teamed up with.
Yeah, so the FitAid one. So that'll be launching in a couple of weeks, and that's one to watch out for, because that is a year's supply of FitAid and a year's supply of Defiance. So that's really cool. That giveaway is going to be sick, and it basically means that is 24th of October. I
think it's before that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I can't remember the day, but I'd say it was like earlier in October.
No, I think
you might be right.
It was that, but it'll be October at some point. And it's a really cool giveaway because like we're working with Georgia on getting some content, because she's an ambassador for both FitAid and ourselves. So that'd be cool. But that's the natural connection between ourselves and FitAid. So that's good. And then we're going to be doing one for the comps that we attend in October. So similar to the one that we just talked about, where we're going to be giving away 8 cases of the amazing Surreal.
Your fave.
So Surreal is a play on cereal, and it is surreal how good it tastes, considering it has no sugar in. God knows what it does have in, because it tastes fucking great, but there's no sugar and there's protein. So
it looks like Weetos.
As a CrossFitter or as an athlete or as any fitness enthusiast, no sugar and protein. Don't matter about how else, does it? Just get it down you. Get it down you and see the gains.
Yeah.
So that's good though, because I am passionate about them. I have my own subscription to.
You do.
To that, to Surreal. So I'm really excited that we get to do a giveaway with them. So yeah, 8 cases of that. And we haven't quite decided what our offering will be on that to put in with it. But again, it'll be around the 200 quid mark for the total value of the giveaway, which is really good again.
And what about BF3?
BF3, British Functional Fitness Federation. So
Wow.
that starts this weekend. Well, the weekend upcoming from when we do this. We're not getting to the debate again about how we determine days on the podcast.
Some people like to know the days though, so I feel like I've got to allow it.
You know what, right? I'm coming back to this shit.
Okay,
because last time you said no one cares about the days, stop boring people. But when I send an email out, you always tell me to put the date so it's relative. This is like a video email almost, so I think it's still relative. So today is Tuesday.
Yes.
The next Saturday, I will be at Forge Functional Fitness for the very first qualifiers for BF3.
Right.
In-person qualifiers, sorry. So that's going to be really cool. Some really top people going. Matt Tyler, our ambassador, he's competing in one of the old men divisions.
Oh, nice.
I can say that because he's still younger than me. He's staying here, so maybe we'll get the backdrop up and I'll see if he's got anything interesting to say.
Nice.
He normally has, to be fair. He's doing pretty cool stuff with his coaching, so yeah, good to hear how that's going. and then see how excited he is to go and throw down with some other old people in the Masters category.
Didn't fancy it now.
Over in Sheffield. I'm not qualified. Well, I am by age, just not by fitness.
What else we missed? Oh, Rogue.
So, yeah, Rogue. So we have made the final payment on our pitch at Rogue, and that, I can't fucking wait for that. That's
You're excited, aren't you?
So good. But what's also cool about that is that we're going to be giving away some tickets to Rogue, to the Invitational. We have got 2 pairs of tickets. So for those of you not familiar, that is 4 tickets, but they'll be going in pairs. And yeah, what a cool thing to win. Like, everyone's confirmed to be there. Like, Tia's going to be there. Some other people, like but yeah, all the top athletes, because it's invitational, they all get invited depending on where they place in the games. So really cool stuff. Taylor Howe from the UK is also qualified, so she should have some home support. And it's up in Scotland. And when we agreed to do Rogue, you think Scotland, sorry, but Scotland to me is like generally Edinburgh and Glasgow, which is about 4.5 hour drive. So like, they sound 4.5 hours up.
And then you told us
7.5 hours. I found out after. It's Aberdeen. I thought that just for a football team. I didn't know it was a real place. and so it's a big old drive, but we've got a good crew going up. So we're absolutely buzzing for that.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
And how did it go with Harry?
Harry Lightfoot, the first guest and the UK's fittest man. So people don't like calling CrossFitters the fittest, but they are. They're fitter than everyone else if you look at fitness across a broad range of modalities, because you can do pretty much, well, CrossFitters can pretty much do everything at that level. But yeah, it was really good. Went down to Worcester, did a bike test with him where he did an actual test and I just pedalled alongside him for shits and
Your
gigs.
favourite?
Yeah, but I do like a C2 bike. But yeah, it was a really good chat. He's really interesting and he's just fun to be around. Like, we had a massive chat before, then we did the podcast, which were 1 hour and 13 minutes.
Nice.
And I wasn't the one mostly talking. Can you believe it? Yeah, it was good. And then we had a slight camera malfunction, which was annoying. But he's just such a good guy, because I was like, for some reason after 52 minutes it cut out. Maybe it was God's way of saying just shut up.
Maybe it could have been 2 hours long.
Yeah, and we'd gone on for about another 40 after that. And then when I seen it, I was like, oh, fuck.
You made him do it again.
Yeah, I was like, do you mind, mate? You were like, just let me get some snap down me, and then we'll do it. And it was a good learning curve, really, because we got some really good stuff in that period after, which we no longer have, because the conversation just went on tangents naturally.
Yeah.
So then when we got back to it, we were a bit more like concise, because we couldn't segue those things in because it just wasn't natural. So we got a few other tangents, but it was the last 40 that happened to be condensed into about 20. So, but it was a good chat. And yeah, if you're interested in Harry and hearing his story from rugby to elite level CrossFitter, then that's a really good listen.
Is that out now?
It is, yes.
Depends on the day.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into days, but it's out. It's on our YouTube. So when you log in to watch this one, which I'm sure all of you will, well, they already are, then you'll be able to see it. But speaking of that, like we talked about the views and stuff like that. So the first podcast, about 213 views. The second one's like at 56 now.
Yeah.
So at the moment we have a 75% drop on every one.
So going for next.
Yeah, I reckon by the time we get to that 11th episode, what you talked about, we'll probably have no viewers.
The 0 ones. Yeah, fine.
So just so you know, to keep you updated.
Oh, what? How little people are viewing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
How little people care.
So we're going to talk what today's topic was, which is imposter syndrome.
Yeah, imposter syndrome. So I hear that phrase quite a lot, and I feel like it takes on a couple of different meanings. So you generally, I feel like we'll have slightly different views on this.
Very.
But people generally tend to say they've got it if they happen to be in a position, a good position. People have worked hard for something, and then they start to have that bit of self-doubt, thinking, do I deserve to be here? How have I got here? And it's quite common, I think. And I think like the best way to deal with that, from my point of view, is to almost ask the same questions, but ask them in a much more positive way. So, if you ever find yourself thinking, if you've been working in your business and you've been really successful, or, if you're a sports person and you get called up to a professional club, or you're a CrossFitter, and even at a lower level, you win your first comp with your friends, it's like, you need to recognize what you've done to get there, So whatever that little bit of success is, you've earned it and you deserve it. So rather than think to yourself in that imposter syndrome way, how did this happen? Just think, how the fuck am I here? How have I shouldn't be here. If you want to think of it like that, be positive. I worked hard. I didn't have these opportunities. These things weren't given to me, and I've made it.
Yeah.
Like, that is the best way to deal with that voice in the back of your head. So allow it to ask yourself the question, but ask it in a much more positive, uplifting way, because there's absolutely anybody watching this or anybody listening, there is nothing you can ever achieve unless you deserve it. And that doesn't matter what that is. It doesn't matter if it's business, sport, personal relationships. You get what you deserve. And that's a bitter pill to swallow for some people, because some people maybe have imposter syndrome the other way, where they think the world owes them everything. And they can never understand why they don't get what they think they deserve. And it's because they don't deserve it. Life is, sometimes it's shit, but it generally rewards people that work hard. So never think to yourself, why are you there? Think to yourself, how am I here? What have I done to get here? And then that imposter syndrome just flips into such a positive thing, because you will only have got there through hard work.
Definitely. As long as you're not trying to blag it, I think that's the biggest thing.
But I feel like a blagger wouldn't necessarily get imposter syndrome because they're already an imposter.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. I think I'm trying to think of a time where that was massive for me. So when I had one of my first my first recruitment job. So it was like the city job that I was really excited to have. And I'd been in about 6 months. I'd done really well. I'd had 3 or 4 promotions within a year. So I was doing really well for myself. But I worked in engineering and manufacturing that I knew diddly squat about, but I understood people, which is why I was good at recruitment. And I always remember I went to this meeting. It was a foundry. And there were people like men like hunched over like boiling metal, and these places that I didn't even know existed. And I remember walking through thinking, oh my God. And I walked into the office, and there was this old chap there. He'd obviously been there from day dot. So I was in there, and I used to recruit for the senior market. So these are people earning 50 to sort of 100k. So they weren't
Which back then were a lot of money.
So I went in, and he was looking for an operations manager. So I went in to speak to him and obviously do the typical sales pitch. And he was just one of, not a typical, that's unfair to say, but someone who had very certain old-fashioned views about life. And obviously I was young. I was 19, 20. So I was young and probably looked young as well, but I was quite confident in the job and my ability to do it. And I remember him asking me, where did I get my degree? So I don't have a degree. I left straight from school. I worked through school and then got straight into 2 full-time jobs and did all that from leaving pretty soon. So I said, I didn't. So he said, well, I've been in education longer than you've been alive. So if you tell me that you can recruit my next operations manager better than X company or someone with X amount of experience. And I remember it absolutely floored me. And it was the first time that I'd felt that small in my, not my entire career, because that's unfair, because I'd learned my previous roles from working from the ground up. So if you're an engineering manufacturing professionals, he's worked from the ground up. He knows everything, every nuance, every in and out. So then that was my first experience of imposter syndrome. Like, why on earth am I here pretending that I know about his business? Anyway, it was the biggest and best learning curve of all time. I'd got a really good manager at the time, a guy named Joe Walton, and he came back, and for exactly the same night, he framed it differently. And that's where I came back. So whenever it happened again in the future, or people questioned me, I was like, I don't need to understand what you do. I need to understand people. And at the end of the day, people can learn a job. They can learn a skill, but you cannot find the right, as long as you get the right culture and the right people in the right places, essentially the CV doesn't mean much. Otherwise your business or that team has only got so long. You need people to drive and to lead. And it was, like I say, one of the best things that I ever did. So everything from there on out, I made sure that, obviously in the business that especially I do now, all my spare time, my reading power, my podcasts, everything, all the things that I go to, so events, exhibitions, etc., are all based on how they make me a better person at what I do. So I wanted to never experience that imposter syndrome like I did then, by thinking I didn't know that I didn't know enough. But you never know enough. Like, you never crack it. And if you think you know everything, then you're a moron. Like,
that's my life.
But it's true. You should never know everything. There are always people out there that know more than you. And if you are that naive to think that you know everything, then you're already lost.
And that's the thing. When I started working with you, I think because of how I am, sometimes you just assume that I was a know-it-all. But
people that know you would agree.
But in such I guess in some ways, I just have a lot of information that I absorb and that I hold on to. But when I know that there's something I don't know, I want to learn from people that are better than me. And that was the first thing I said to you. Like, I want this information. And I think it's okay to come across as knowing it all if when you actually don't, you enlist the right people, because it's good to display confidence in what you're doing. But yeah, on that, all those bits and bobs that you attend, I've never seen anyone absorb information like you do when you go to those. You have a really good way of absorbing that and then repackaging it to people like myself in our position. But then I know I hear you on calls with your other clients, and you have a different way of then relaying that information to all those individual people, and you relate it to their business or their personalities, and it's a really good skill to have. So obviously that lesson that you learned early on, you have now developed such a skill for being able to relate anything to everyone's business. It doesn't matter if you don't know the business inside out, because you know how this bit of information will help that business.
And I never want anyone to feel stupid. Like what I do, some people will go, what is she on about? Much like whenever you talk about some of the stuff you talk about, I've got absolutely no idea what you're on about.
No interest either, I think.
It depends on the topic, but yeah. But if I'm interested, or I ask questions, and if I don't know something, it's okay to not know something. And I do make sure, like you say, in the delivery of when I speak to my clients, it's, does this make sense? I want to make sure that I'm not using jargon. Have I explained it right? Have you got any questions? And I always think analogies work quite well in more generalized terms that put those scenarios or what it is that I'm trying to explain into things that are easier to digest, because then things happen faster. And once people understand, then that's where it's a great relationship, rather than people just thinking that they're paying for something and hoping to God it's working. It needs to be.
And I think that's the thing a lot with, I guess, like marketing and helping people. There is so much out there, isn't there? That
so much.
People are so sort of defensive about it. Someone comes to them with what appears to be just a sales pitch that's quite rigid and maybe not specific. I'm the worst for it. I don't tolerate anybody coming to me, because my views on that is like, oh, you're going to teach me how to sell, but you're sending unsolicited emails to people that didn't ask for your help. Great sales pitch. You know what I mean? Whereas when people come to you, if you've got a tailored approach to their business, then that's the way to get them in it.
Definitely. Right, we could ramble for hours, but we need to spread this out over a few. What was it, 11? So on the update, you've got, are you saying it out loud, the big update? Or
it's hard for me, this.
That's huge.
So we've been looking at the numbers, and our online growth it's quite significant. It's good, but our growth at events is pretty much like that.
Plateauing.
Yeah, and I think having, with all the people that are watching, probably been to multiple events.
Numbers are down. Been to them all in the last 5 years.
Yeah, numbers are down. Athletes pretty stable, but spectators down. There's so many comps. There's one every weekend if you want to go to one. So it's not that the novelty is worn off. It's just the pool of people that attend is spreading thin. So the cost associated with that for small businesses is quite high. You don't always consider it, but by the time you've paid for a hotel, some of the comps have quite significant entry fees, vendor fees, then your petrol, then if it's a big one, you need staff. Before you know it, your profit margin's like closing. So it's been part of my personal identity going to an event every weekend, but I said it out loud yesterday, and I think you nearly fell off your chair.
I did.
And I said, I think next year, especially Q1, especially just to trial it, no events and see how we go. And I think I'm more close to the first 6 months now. I think we've got sponsorship with CrossFest that we'll still do. So we'll be at the CrossFest. Both of those will be at the Defiant Games. And other than that, I think we're not going to be physically at those events because we just need to try something new. That part of the business, the business was built on events. We got out there, we did what we needed to do, got ourselves in front of people, we developed some good relationships. But now, as we look to progress and reach an even bigger market online, what made us good could eventually hold us back if we keep putting money into areas where you know, there isn't always the same profit margin.
Well, it circles back to what we said at the beginning. If you keep an eye on your data, you keep an eye on your analytics, if it makes business sense, then absolutely.
Well, that's what you said to me yesterday, wasn't it? When I said it, I'm uncomfortable about it. And you were like, oh, but it makes me... I was like, no, I'm not uncomfortable about it from a business sense, because I'm doing it for the business. From a personal point of view, I was like, what am I going to do on my weekends? And that sounds like such a loser, I know. Because I'm like, now...
You can still work.
The prospect of having weekends off has made me uneasy. That tells you all you need to know about my social life. But we're going to do some good stuff. We've already made a sort of a low-level plan of what my weekends are going to look like, so that we are still getting out in the community, seeing people, meeting people, going to gyms, but just in a slightly different capacity. And I think it's something that could work well for us.
Which again, we'll share, won't we, as we go?
Oh,
what works well, what doesn't. Yeah. We'll give it raw and all.
And yeah, on that though, for the comps that people have seen, is that we're still going to support those comps.
Oh, definitely.
We're still going to be looking to work with them, but just look in a slightly different way of us not attending in person. It won't change any of the offerings that we might be able to provide to them, because we want to help those comps, because you know, there might come a point when it goes full circle and comps become much more beneficial for everybody again. But yeah, that is, now I've said it on here, we're accountable. So if you see me at an event, say hello and buy something. See you in January. But yeah, so this year, full throttle, because I'm never going to not go to something that we've committed to going to.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, just going to try something new and see where we land.
Right, so we're going to end on the thing that you're slightly wet for.
I am, but just because.
Because of who it is.
I'm a nerd. Well, so Greg Glassman, who invented CrossFit, and you have to say his name with caution, because he's not everybody's cup of tea. You know, he has said some things in the past that, you know, he probably shouldn't have, and I think some of it was misconstrued. When you hear the full story, it wasn't quite as bad as it seemed to be, but still, you know, he's outspoken and said some stuff he shouldn't have. But he developed CrossFit, so whether you like him or not, the brains behind the methodology is incredible, and everyone still does CrossFit. And the pyramid that we send the updates on, that were his baby. Fitness in 100 words was his baby. So he's he sold CrossFit for 200 million quid. Mm-hmm. Not bad, is it? Considering he was forced out and he came out with 200 million, he didn't do too bad. So he's developing something called MetFix, which is metabolic fix. Mm-hmm. And that is basically, he thinks the world has gone to a point where we are treating, it's like healthcare comes before health now. And he wants to flip that so that health comes before healthcare. Mm-hmm. So healthcare should be a last resort. It shouldn't be something that you shouldn't need to take drugs like to sort of prevent things. You should live a healthy lifestyle, eat the right things, move, and then you'll not need that. You know, if you break your arm, you need a doctor. You know, if you put a bit of weight on, you don't need a pill. Yeah. And Greg's really passionate about trying to cure type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and a lot of chronic disease. And what he's going to do with MetFix, it sounds very similar to how CrossFit started. CrossFit started with the seminars and the level 1. So for MetFix now, you have to apply to get some kind of invite to it. You can't just join it. And when
as a coach?
Anybody can apply. Okay. They'll look at what qualifications you've got to determine whether they want to invite you along to learn their new methodology. Now, it's not going to be fitness in the same way that CrossFit was. It's going to be geared very much towards nutrition. Okay. And how you can help fuel people to make better decisions, and then what elements of fitness can we run alongside good diet in order to make them better. And he's basically trying to cure that. Why he invented CrossFit was to cure what he calls the world's most vexing problem, which is chronic disease. And that is what this is going to do. So there's going to be more to follow on that. And again, it's one of those for me. Some people don't like Greg and don't agree with it. Fine. You don't have to like him as a person.
What he's trying to do.
To take note of that. I think there's a lot of that in the world. Somebody that might be a bit of a dick does something good, and if you like that good thing they did, they think you support that person. You don't have to support that person to benefit from something that person delivers. So whether you hate Greg or love Greg, look into MetFix and see what it can do for you, because the more education we put into people and around their health and what little tweaks they can make to make their lives better. Because, you know, some people say they're happy that they don't do this and they don't do that, but they're not. You know what I mean?
Just they're not.
They're just not. The better you feel,
Yeah.
is normally stems from what you're putting in your body and how much activity you have.
Definitely.
I've been fat. It was miserable. I didn't see it at the time, but you know, when you stand up and you're like, that's not a good place to be.
No.
And so, like, when I started making better decisions, everything got better, and it's like a knock-on effect. Then, the better decisions you make, the better decisions you want to make, and that all stems from like diet and movement. And I think MetFix will nail that.
Nice. Stay tuned.
So that's it. So episode 3
Smashed
in the bag. Good work.
Again, I'll be nice this week.
You still got me a bit.